Fit friends, welcome to the Level Up Lifestyle with Leanne. I'm super excited because we have a great guest coming on today. And we found each other on Instagram, the wonderful World Wide Web, and she's such an inspiration. And just seeing her commit to her health and wellness day in, day out, despite all these ups and downs, it's a true inspiration. So I wanted to bring her on to our podcast to talk to us today. So welcome, Nima. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great. I'm honored. I feel honored to be interviewed and doing this podcast with you, Leanne. I feel like I've known you for a long time. I don't even remember how we met. So
Just probably seeing each other's stories through the way, I think there's always this connection. I used to be in the Wonder Woman official, TWW. And I think that's how a lot of the gals, there's a huge community. And I think we probably found each other through that way.
that's who I met Trish first.
Yes.
And I started following her, then I started following Joan, and I did the Train with Joan app for a while. So that's how we got connected.
Yes, I love that. Some of my clients that have found me too have all said the similar story where they found Joan first and they started with the Train with Joan app and then they've just evolved. So why don't you tell our viewers a little bit about yourself? Like, what do you do? Where do you live? Kids, pets, all that good stuff.
Right now I live in Murrieta, California. So it's Southern California. I'm 50, yeah, I'm 56 years old. I have three wonderful sons. One's 37, one is 30, and one is 26. And they're all very talented and doing well. They're all artistic. My oldest one is in film and he works for Columbia Records. He just got a job there as a vice president. So he's big time now. Only thing is he moved to New York. So
oh, bummer. Yeah. Well, you have to make your way out to New York.
Exactly, yes. And then my middle son is a recording engineer, and my youngest one, he's local, he lives in LA. And then my youngest one is a nail artist. You've probably seen some of his work that I share.
Yeah, amazing. So all, like you said, yeah, very creative field. So where does that come from? Or what kind of creativity sparks do you have?
It's mostly their dad, and it's mostly the family's very artistic. Excuse me.
No, don't worry. Your dog. We love dogs here. Let's see the dog. Make a guest appearance.
Okay. Let's see.
Oh my goodness. What's his name?
Her name is Suki.
Suki. And what is she? What kind of dog is she?
She's a Yorkie Terrier.
Oh, how old is Suki?
She's 10 years old. She was born in 2013, so going on 11. She's getting older.
She's a golden girl.
Yes.
I love it. You know me, I think you've said how many cats and stuff do I have. So I am like a little zoo over here. So we love our four-legged furry friends. Yeah.
Exactly.
So tell us, so I know that what sparked me too was, seeing first your guns, your arms, man, when your Flex Fridays, I was like, that gal has some gun goals. So I was like, and then I think we started like commenting on some of your stuff. And then you had started talking about some of your medical issues. And I think for me, that resonated with me with my own medical issues and having an ostomy and whatnot. So can you kind of speak to that? I mean, was health and wellness always a part of your life? And then this medical thing happened, or tell us the history on that.
I got diagnosed with multiple myeloma in July of 2010. It's an incurable blood cancer. At the time I was 43 years old, and the hardest part was telling my kids. And so I've been fighting since 2010. On and off, different treatments, clinical trials, some failed, a lot of them failed, a lot of them I had to go to the ER for allergic reactions. One of them, actually, a clinical trial that I was on in 2015, I became so allergic to it that I ended up with sepsis and stayed in the hospital for 6 days. My fever wouldn't go. Yeah, that one was pretty serious. And it turned out to be that I had an allergic reaction to one of the chemotherapies. It was like a three regimen, 3 doses.
Okay.
And I just continued fighting. And then one day I was thinking, like, one day in 2017, August of 2017, first of all, I started walking with my niece and my youngest son, like in 2014. And that's how I started, like, really getting active. Before that, I was on so many treatments, and it was really hard to be active. A lot of times I spent in bed, either from pain, physical pain, or mental pain. I was fighting cancer, and I kept going from regimen to regimen, and they were all, I was either failing the treatment, the chemotherapy wasn't
Working.
the myeloma, or I became allergic to it, and I would get side effects.
Right.
And finally, and I continue walking. Then finally, like in 2016 winter time, I told my oncologist, I was like, I'm done for a bit. I'm tired of fighting. I was at the end. I was just tired of going through 7 years of chemotherapy. It was, yeah, 7 years. And she gave me a couple of months of a chemo break. I call it a chemo vacation. Close to January, a chemotherapy came out that was an immunotherapy. Back then, immunotherapies, you probably are familiar with a lot of them, there weren't many of them, but there was one called Darzalex, and she's like, I have a new one. It's called Darzalex. I think you'd be good for it. Are you willing to try it? At this point, she was cautious about how she approached me, because I was like,
Right.
and I was like, yes, I'll try it. And I started it January of 2016. Because it was an immunotherapy versus a chemotherapy, which can be harsher, I really responded to it. And I responded so well that it put me in remission. My numbers are stable. So that was in 2016. I was on that treatment from 2016 January till March 31st of 2021.
Okay.
During the pandemic, I stretched out the protocol is to get the treatment every 4 weeks. During that time, it was difficult, so I kept stretching it out, and then something told me, wait a second, if it's working when I space it out, what about if I just stop? Excuse me, I'm gonna let my dog.
Okay, no problem.
Just leave the door open for you, okay? There you go. What's that? Sorry. So I started playing around with it, and my oncologist was willing to work with me, because I had another oncologist that said, no, it's not going to work. And we spaced it out to where it was every 8 weeks and then every 3 months. And then one day I just had the courage, and I told her in March, I was like, I want to stop the treatment just in case I can remain stable without the immunotherapy. And she said, we'll monitor your markers once a month, and we'll go from there. Until this day, I still remain stable without treatment.
No immunotherapy.
No immunotherapy.
No pill.
No pill, nothing. Which is a risk. You know, there's always that. I constantly live with the risk when you have cancer, with the risk that you're going to relapse, because I've relapsed so many times. I think I have a list of chemotherapies I've been about, including the stem cell transplant and the clinical trial, about 11 different treatments altogether.
Wow, Nima. That is rough. So when you were diagnosed at 43, before that, were you fit and active and doing stuff?
I was active and fit and doing stuff, but I wasn't paying attention to my nutrition like I should have.
Okay.
Yes. And so what I say is cancer was kind of like a wake-up call for me. And even when I was fighting during the tough times, it was hard to stay active and it was hard to stay fit during those times. I think I think what really allowed me to become more active was when I went on the immunotherapy, and that one didn't have as many side effects as the chemotherapies. And I used it as a single agent too. Nowadays, sometimes they give you that treatment, and they add two more, like a pill and then a steroid.
Yeah.
I was
You have
lucky.
a cocktail. You have a
Yes,
cocktail.
and I was lucky. And you know as well as I do that when you add additional treatments, then you get more side effects, and you know it
Right.
increases the rate of side effects. So I was lucky because it was, when it came out back then, it was used as a single agent.
Okay.
And I think that allowed me, when I was on that, I started feeling better and I started walking. Then in 2017, I was like, it's not enough to walk. So I started going to the gym. There's a local YMCA down the street. And that's when I started training. And I just started feeling so much better. And it was great that I decided to talk to my sister Nellie, who's a marathon runner. And I was like, I said, I'm going to start walking, and I've started training. She's like, you should do a half marathon with me.
Yeah.
You know,
that's how they suck you in.
You're a runner, so you know.
They suck you in, those runners. They find you and suck you in.
And I was like, I'm not going to run it. I'll walk it. So sure enough, she's like, I'll find you one. She found the Joshua Tree one, which is a beautiful one. It's a beautiful one in November in the evening. So
it's cool.
Yes, it's very dark though and sandy and hilly, but it's and that was life-changing. Crossing that finish line and training for, to run, walk 13 miles and overcoming what I had was life-changing. I can share that video of when I crossed.
Yes, need to share that video. Did you cry?
Yes, I cried and everything else. I felt like at that moment, I felt like I was invincible.
I love that for you, right? I mean, unless somebody struggles with a medical issue or an autoimmune, and it's like hard to explain unless you're in it, because on the outside you could look fine, but all this stuff is happening outside and it's so out of your control. Like if it was as simple as, just doing this or doing that or eating this or doing that, I mean, we would have done it, but it's like our body is running on its own circuit board and it's like going haywire, and we're like helpless, so to be able to compete such a feat right after you've been through, gosh, what was it, 10 years, over 10 years through the ringer.
Yeah, so 2010 and that was 2017 and
17 years. Yeah, 7 years.
Yes, and it was November, I think it's November 4th, and that's my most prized medal, because that kind of just woke me up, and I was like, wait, I can do this. I can do other stuff. I'm just capable of anything. And so that kind of gave me the courage to asked my oncologist about stopping the treatment. And then I started training more. I started strength training a lot more after that. And that actually inspired my kids. One of my, it was me, my ex-husband, and my sister at the time that ran that marathon, that half marathon. But my two of my kids, my 30-year-old and my 26-year-old went with me. The next half marathon I did, my 30-year-old was doing it with me.
I love that.
And so far, my 30-year-old's completed one half marathon. My 26-year-old has completed a half marathon. And my oldest son runs on the treadmill, like when he strength trains. So
then did you tell your doctors that you were planning to run this half marathon, or you kept it on the hush?
I kept it on the hush. My oncologist think I'm crazy. Right? You probably deal with a lot of that with your doctors, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
You know, I learned, like, you probably navigated similar, and you can tell me, but when I first was diagnosed, I thought, oh, you got this wrong, because I was a triathlete and so healthy. I'm like, so I didn't pay attention. I was like, you got this wrong. Give me my meds and let me go on my way. I want to go do this swim, bike, run thing. And then after a year, within the first year, I relapsed hard. And I was going to say, like, after I relapsed that first time, I could never get it back under control. But I was also young and a little bit naive. You know, and local style here, Hawaii culture is you don't, you respect people in authoritative positions, and they're the doctors, and I felt like they knew better. So I never questioned. I always did what they said. You know, when they told me to do certain things, even though maybe I felt like, maybe I shouldn't, I just listened. And then I realized after several years that, doctors are human just like us. They make mistakes. They don't know. They're only going from textbook and what they learned, but we are in our bodies. So we have to speak up, right? And be our own advocate and sort of bump up against the system sometimes and say, like, look, I think I know what's best for me, because I feel sometimes doctors err on the side of caution, like, right? They got to cover their ass. So they're going to be like, no, don't run. Basically they said, don't exercise. You need to be bed rest. Don't do this, don't do that, and so it was hard for me in the beginning. And it took me a good, probably 7 years before I started to finally find my voice and be
That's
like,
me too. So from 2007 to 2010 to 2000, that's interesting.
I just was, and then I finally found, like you said you had like a bum oncologist. I sort of had a mean GI doctor, not a mean one. I just, I ended up with him at the emergency because I was in the emergency and he was assigned to me, and I just stuck with him because I just was like, I don't know, okay. And he would tell me things
exactly like you
lose weight. And then he said, go to the Buddhist temple, because Buddhists believe that if you get a disease as a young adult, you hadn't learned some important life lesson. And that was my breaking point. When he said, go to the temple, I was like, I got to find myself a new doctor.
That was your wake-up call then. You were like, what am I doing?
What am I doing? But so then, can you share that pivotal moment or realization that kind of flipped this switch for you?
So in 2017, when I started feeling good, so I had been on the Darzalex from all of 2016, 2017. And then I started doing the half marathon. Around that time too, I watched, something told me I was trying to get really healthy. So I watched the documentary Forks Over Knife. Forks Over Knives.
I know that one, Forks Over Knives, yep.
I remember sitting in front of the TV watching it one day, and I was like, I can do this, especially if it's going to control my cancer and stop me from relapsing. So literally that night when I saw it, I was like, I'm going to become vegan. And so I became vegan, and I went to the store. I had no idea everything what I had to do. And I became vegan from August 2017 to August 2021.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So I stuck to it. But a lot of the vegan foods are inflammatory. And I know you probably can understand that. I was, like the beans, the legumes, the nightshades, the gluten, I was eating a lot of starch. So I decided to try more of a paleo diet. I talked to my primary doctor, and he said, you should try a paleo diet, because if you've been vegan, you can do the paleo diet. It will give you, you'll eat clean proteins and lots of fruits and vegetables, and they carry a lot of anti-cancer properties, is what he said. So that's what I do now.
Okay, so you're paleo.
Yes, paleo. So most of my diet consists of clean proteins and then vegetables. Yes.
I love that your doctor was open to that. I think doctors more nowadays are more open to having a conversation on nutrition versus back in the day, like the early 2000s, 2010s, when they really didn't, like I think when I was first diagnosed with colitis, my diet, they said, was all low residue. So they said low residue was no fruits, no veggies, no fiber, all white. And they sent me home with a list that said biscuits and pancakes and French toast and rice.
All carbs.
So I'm glad. So, okay, so you've posted some, I keep encouraging you, right, to tell you something. You got to post more, man. Post more about your transformation and all this stuff. So were you, because you're lean, were you always this lean, or did you, from the medical diagnosis and then the changes in lifestyle, did you end up losing a lot of weight, or can you give our listeners some background on that?
During the time that I was fighting really heavy from 2010 to 2017, before I started walking, I think at my highest, I got up to like 165. I contributed a lot to emotional eating, heavy steroids, because a lot of the treatment, and they give you such an appetite. It's they make you an evil person, and they make you very hungry. You know that, right?
Yeah. Was it prednisone? Was it prednisone that they gave you?
Prednisone, it was dexamethasone, prednisone, and Cellucortef. I found out that Dex really messed with me mentally, so they switched me to something called Cellucortef. Yes.
How tall are you?
I'm 4'10". So my biggest, I got to like 160. And that was pre-stem cell transplant. I had a stem cell transplant in 2012. That was very hard. And then, so I went up and down a lot according to my treatments and how I was feeling emotionally. Yeah. Until I started training, walking, and did my first half marathon. I believe all those things have made me stronger physically, but also mentally. And that's what has helped me overcome everything.
Oh yeah, man. It starts here, right? It starts here. I mean, I'm sure we know a lot of people that have been dealt a deck of cards where it's less than ideal, right? And it's really shitty, pardon my French, circumstances. And, they stay in that low, right? And then it's almost like you're on this sort of.
My dog is
okay, no problem. She's like, Mom, why are you home and not playing with me?
She wants attention.
Yeah, you can hold her. She'll stay with you. Yeah, that's fine. She can be in the video. She'll help us go viral. Suki, help us go viral. This is probably like her time, right? When you come home from a long day at work. She's like, yeah, it's time to eat and walk. So how did your, with this, all this, this diagnosis and everything. So how did your perspective on like your priorities, your life, your relationships, and any of that shift?
Yes, a lot of it shifted. As I started a big point in my life during 2020, the pandemic, I feel like the pandemic actually gave people a chance to either like digress or progress. And I don't know if you've seen that, but I've seen that a lot in people. Like it helped, it sort of helped at that. During the pandemic, I lost my dad. My dad passed away, and he was, thank you. He was like very important to me. So I started seeing a therapist. He passed away July 24th of 2020, and I started seeing a therapist in September. And I still see her till this day on Zoom, via Zoom. And she's helped me a lot to strengthen my mind. So I'm thankful for that I found a good therapist that has helped me overcome a lot of my mental issues. A lot of my mental issues have been due to fighting cancer, for so many years, and then living with it, and always wondering whether I'm going to relapse or not. That's hard.
That is hard. It's almost like you always, sometimes you might be in a low level of chronic, like waiting for that other shoe to drop sort of thing, right? And that's a low level chronic stressor, right? Just kind of like this, living in this, and that affects your body too. So it's like, how can you navigate that, right? Knowing that you have this thing sort of in the back, but also knowing that, what can I do to keeping on? Because like you said, it's all connected, right? How we think and the stress and all that. So I always tell my clients too, therapy, when they start talking to me about stuff, I said, do you have a therapist? And they're like, no, I don't. I'm like, you need to get one if you have insurance, and you can have the ability to me, it's a game changer, because it's someone who is outside of your bubble that can give you a very unbiased perspective to help you see things when you're so in it and so close to it, you can't see it, So I'm really, it's so funny because I feel like local culture is probably a lot, I'm Hawaiian, I'm a Hoi dog, I'm a mutt, but I'm mostly Mexican Hawaiian.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. So my grandfather was from Texas, but then my mom and my dad all were born here in Hawaii. And so I'm a mixed breed, but, a local Hawaiian culture is very like, you don't talk about your problems to other strangers, just deal with it yourself. We don't talk about it as a family, maybe we drink it away or something. But
exactly.
So I would imagine, is that the same for like your culture too?
My parents are both Ecuadorian. They're from South America. They're immigrants, and they came here. They tell me they came here penniless, and they was just hard workers. I attribute my strength and my work ethics a lot to my mom and dad, because my dad was a handyman, then he became a plumber, and he worked for a company, and then one day he just said, I'm tired of working for someone. He's like, I'm gonna have my own business, plumbing and heating, and he did that. Then he started flipping houses. Back in the 80s, it was a boom. Yes, and that's how he made a lot of his money, flipping houses. He would buy them, then he would fix them up with his cousin, and
I love that. He's an entrepreneur.
Yes, and I just watched him work hard, and yes, my mom and my dad, they're just very strong people, and because you have Mexican, right? And you know how hard Latinos work.
My dad and my mom, they were teen parents. They had me, my mom was 17, and my dad dropped out of high school. He came from a long line of tile setters. So he went to work with his dad, laying back-breaking work, right? Laying tile. And he literally did that up until, I think he retired a couple of years ago, but hard work. So yes, a lot of people tell me, oh, you're strong for a chick, or whatever. And I attribute to it. I was like, oh, maybe, I think it's the Mexican and the Polynesian or Hawaiian genes.
And you don't realize it. Like, I was like, before I was thinking about you and thinking about the interview, and remember I texted you that I was honored. I was like, yes, this year and last year have probably been the best years of my life since my cancer diagnosis.
And I love that for you.
Yes, it's just, I think everyone is capable of that. It's just that some people, we close our minds sometimes. I feel like at 43, I was closed-minded. I was just, you know, my husband and I were just trying to raise the boys, trying to make sure
Mhm.
they did every, so you kind of, I felt like I kind of lost myself during that time. Not that I didn't enjoy it, but your priorities change. You know,
Yeah,
you're trying to raise your kids, you're doing the best, they're all playing sports. It's just a busy time. So you kind of, you know, your priorities take a step back. And now I feel like my kids are success. That's what I was thinking. Leanne's going to interview. My kids are successful. I couldn't ask for more. And I'm just living a good life. You know, that's the way I feel right now.
I love that. It's so important to recognize, and I think it's a common struggle that a lot of people share, especially moms out there, because I think what always happens is, right, they fall off of their list and then they beat themselves up about it. But what I try to educate people is like, look, everything can't be top priority. We have seasons, we have busy seasons. If you have kids and stuff, of course, that's going to take priority because everything can't be number one. But what we have to remember is you got to be somewhere in that top 3 to 5 thing to do too, because you got to take care of you as well, right? But that's such a testament to, like you said, you know, I can't imagine having kids and also having a devastating sort of diagnosis, and then you know you kept keeping on.
Yeah, so my oldest one was my middle one was in high school. He was a senior in high school. He was the starting running back for the football team. My middle one was 15 in middle school, and then my oldest one at the time, so 16, he's so he was already like 20 at the time. He was already older and he didn't live with us. It was just a hard time. The hardest thing was telling them that I had cancer, and I still remember it till this day. It's just a horrible thing. But his football team and all the coaches, they were all just, you know, when you have a cancer diagnosis and, you know, it's everyone, there's so much support, you know. But at the time when you first get diagnosed, it's like sometimes you don't really want to deal with that. You know, you've been there before too, where it's like, it's almost like it's unreal that it's happening to you and you're like in a fog.
Yeah, it's an unreal, like an out of body experience. And then I feel like how they say with grief, you got to go through the stages of grief, right? I think it's the same thing, like the stages of grief when you get a diagnosis. You kind of got to work through. I think there was like they got it wrong for me, and then it was like for a really long time it was like, I'm gonna show you disease. And I thought I could like outbox it or something, you know. And then it was a why me. You know, I feel like you have to go through the why me, like this is so not fair, and then the pity, the you know, then the anger for me set in. Like I was mad, right? Because then you know you go you know you're like, you know, all these shitty people in the world, and they're like, you know, you're like, but why me? Why me? And you got to go through that. And it's okay to feel those things, right? Like we got to purge it, get it out.
I still go through that, but now that I've had like 3 years of therapy, now I kind of know. I tell myself, you know, emotions are temporary. You know, you may feel bad today, you know, it's okay to cry it out, but tomorrow's going to be a new day. And tomorrow, whatever's on my schedule for training, and I'm like, and tomorrow I'll be able to do shoulders and it's going to be okay. You know,
I
you
love that.
constantly have to tell yourself that it's going to be okay, because the reality is if we don't like train our minds and tell ourselves that, yeah, we can fall, you know, with ailments and uncurable diseases like we have, it's easy to fall back.
Yeah, to regress.
If we don't continue moving, and that's why you and I continue moving, that's why we connected. I find that most of my friends that I've met on Instagram have similar personalities like you and I. It's like it's like the universe just sends them to us. I don't know if you've experienced that with your friends that you meet on Instagram.
Well, yeah, I've always been a big believer, and it took me a long time to figure this as I gotten older, but I always say your vibe attracts your tribe.
Yes, that's a
And
good one. And that's what's
yeah,
happening to me.
the energy you put out is the energy you receive. So I look at the different seasons in my life on different lessons that I've learned and the kind of relationships I've had, and they've always mimicked the type of sort of energy and season I was in. And so
Yes.
like you, I feel like, you know, like this past couple of years, I've been feeling the best and meeting really great people like you that share similar, that are like-minded and genuine and just doing the thing to the best that we can, you know, getting the work done. And I do feel it's like, oh, because I'm in the right mindset and state to receive these kinds of blessings or people into my life.
Exactly. And I use those as pick me up sometimes, you know, it's like people just like, oh, comment on my reels and they'll be like, that smile, you know, and
Yes.
it's like, it's just enlightening to see that. And I love inspiring people. And sometimes I'm like,
You
taken
are.
aback. I'm taken aback. I'm like, really, little crazy Nima? I'm inspiring people?
Yes, you are. That
Yeah.
is why I wanted to talk to you. So if you could say, I know there's many things, because we always talk about no matter what goal you have, transformation, mental, physical, professional, it's not one thing, right? It's many things. But in your whole to date experiences and seasons of living, is there like maybe one or a few specific sources of support that you feel played a real significant role in your healing to get to arrive here?
Yes, my kids have always been my biggest inspiration.
I love that.
Staying alive for them, you know, it's staying alive for them. You want to get down? I think she hears something. So when she hears something, she wants to go and
Yeah, like new excitement.
yes. So my kids have been my biggest inspiration, and just seeing them go through the success that they've gone through, getting calls from them when they want advice as adults, you know, that keeps me going. I also have 3 grandchildren now. I have one that's 12, one that's 2, and a newborn that was born
Oh,
September. So 2
wow.
boys and 1 girl. I think that my family is my biggest inspiration. Yes.
That's so important. And so when did you start? Because you're a trainer, correct? You're a trainer. When did you start this? Was this always your career? Was this a newfound career after you started feeling better? Give us some highlights on that.
So I started training back in 2018 when I started after my Joshua Tree half marathon.
Yes.
I was like, I should join a gym. If I could run half a marathon, I could strength train and I could really get buff and this and that.
Yes.
So then I started training and I met people there, and I met friends with a lot of people that I'm still friends with now. And that was 2018.
Okay.
And I just started training then, but I wasn't really into it. I was into it. I hired a couple of personal trainers. I did stay consistent, but I wasn't lifting like with the knowledge I have now with the progressive overload and just, you know, trying to, you know, get a lot of gains. So now I'm into bodybuilding. I started training really heavy last year, October
Okay. So
of last year. I met a friend on Instagram too, who's now my boyfriend, but he started training and he's like, that was one of our first dates. It was like, let's train.
oh my God, that's amazing.
And he's been a trainer before, and he's a bodybuilder, so he started training and we started training together until this day we train together. We have like right now we have a push, pull, shoulder, leg
Yeah.
routine. And I've seen massive gains. So
Yeah,
he's
we
been a
see the
big,
gains, sister. We
yeah.
see the gains. Oh, so wait, do the sons approve of boyfriend?
Yes, two have met him. Yes,
Okay.
my oldest son hasn't met him yet. I'm just careful with that. You know, when you have kids and stuff and you know, you introduce someone else, it's like I'm always careful. I just want to be careful, you
Oh,
know. I want my kids to approve of everything, you know.
oh, that's so nice. My mom is divorced, and I always tell my mom, "Mom, put yourself out there. Go date everybody. You've been wiped up for
Exactly.
so long. Live, play in the field, mom." And she's like, "I don't know what to do." I'm like, "I don't know. Let's figure it out."
Tell her to go on a site, a dating site. There's like
Yeah, my mom, even though she's like I have a younger mom, but she's
uh-huh.
very old school.
How old is she?
And my mom is 65.
Oh, okay. So she's yeah, she's still young. So
Yeah, so she had me at 17. She
yes,
was
so my
We grew up
second
together.
husband, who is he's actually 16 years older than me, 72, right? And
Okay.
he's my youngest son's dad, and we still talk. We're good friends.
Oh, I love
Um,
that.
and I asked him, I said, he's in Oregon. I asked him, are you dating anyone? He's like, no, I'm not ready, and this and that. I'm like, put yourself out there. You know, he
Yeah,
likes skiing and paragliding. I'm like, join Facebook groups that have,
yeah.
so you can meet someone that's like-minded. But
Yeah, that's what I say, like this is the next chapter of life. It should be lived and enjoyed, and but my mom still, so I give her some time. So what ways do you think, or do you hope that this story of your transformation can inspire others facing similar health challenges?
so, in what ways? I want people to always, what kept me going all these years was hope. I always held on to hope no matter what. I'm like, there's got to be a light under the tunnel, even though it doesn't seem like there is, you know. But even though it seems bad today, um, we just have to find ways to kind of continue to keep pushing forward. And sometimes that push is hard, which is why I decided to get certified as a personal trainer. So I thought about that last year, and then I was like, I could do this. My story's inspiring. I have friends on Instagram that tell me they're inspired by me. I was like, and at that time, I started getting a lot of my energy back, because during the time I was on treatment, I couldn't do much. And I was like, maybe I'd be good as a personal trainer. So I looked into it and I got certified last April. Yeah.
Congratulations.
And there was a local gym that I would go to, and I knew the owner, and he hired me at first just to do the functional fitness classes without
Yep.
the certification. And then he's like, we'll start you off at this pay. And he goes, and once you get certification, we'll give you a raise. And I got my certification, but the gym closed at the
Oh,
time. And I
right.
was devastated. That was last year around May. And I was like, what am I gonna do? What am I gonna do? I printed out my resume. My boyfriend told me, um, he's like, just dress up like you working your workout gear and drop off your resume with the person that's hiring of the gym. I did that with all the local gyms, maybe 10 of them. And by the end of that week, I had like 3 interviews, three.
Wow.
Oh, it was like the local Esporta, the local Powerhouse gym, a local gym, and then another one hired me. And I was like, wow, I get personal trainers are always, they're always hiring personal trainers. Um, so that's what got me into that. And so I've been working at a Sporta. After that gym closed, I was scared of getting a job, but I was like, I looked at it this way. I was like, things happen for a reason. And
Yes.
I was getting comfortable there, and I wasn't really growing at the other gym because it was very slow. I was like, I've just got to put myself out there. And I did. I'm still there, and I've learned so much. I learned a lot getting certified and through the books, but most of my experience is working with the clients hands-on. That's what's really helped me a lot. And it's the most fulfilling job I've had ever. Before cancer, I worked as an executive assistant for a big hospital at first. Then I quit my job to raise my boys because they were just being through daycare. Yes. And I didn't want that. So then when I did start working after my youngest one was in kindergarten, I wanted something that was worked around their schedule. So I got a job as an office clerk at their local school. So I actually got to work at the school that my youngest one was attending. So that was a fun job. And then in 2010, that's when I got diagnosed with cancer and I stopped. So this is actually my second career. I've always been an administrative assistant.
Okay.
And so this is my second career, and I'll say I thoroughly enjoy it. Even like, you know how when you think you have a lot of clients, like some days I'll have like 7 clients back, and I'm like, oh, but I was gonna get at the end of when I'm done, it's like every client that I train, I get something back that's fulfilling from them. It's like, yes, I love the job. I can't just, you know what it's like because you're a trainer. Yeah.
Yeah, it is my second career too. I spent over 11 years working at an ad agency, like my job out of college,
job, yeah.
marketing executive at this big ad agency here local, and then I got into the grind, and I was actually diagnosed while I was at the agency with my ulcerative colitis, and that was sort of like a pivotal point for me, being like, wow, this is real. Do I want to spend the next half of my life selling people shit they don't need?
Exactly. What year was that? What year was that?
That was 2011. Well, I left 2011. I started at 2000 in 2000. And I love the business and I love the people, but and that I'm a late bloomer. My husband says you're a late bloomer when it comes to fitness because I was a very non-athletic, chubby kid. My mom is a great cook and she gave us whatever we wanted to eat.
That's Ecuadorian food too.
Yeah. So it was like, you know, I never was athletic or anything. I was a bookworm and, you know, got straight A's and all that stuff. Went to all the school, did all the school things, nerd things. And then found fitness while I was in college, probably like around 19 or 20. Never worked out, nothing. And then I was like, wow, this is kicking my butt. And I was at the gym and a gal met me, started to see me at the gym. And she's an older gal. She's like, you should come run with me. And I was like, nobody ever really nurtured this sort of athletic side that I had. Like, I never knew it existed because, you know, I was like, sure, you know, and she would meet me like 2 times a week at 5 a.m. before we worked at our office jobs. And she would take me to run. And it was the first time, I love this lady, her name was Kathy Harris. It was the first time that I was able to be like, wow, my body, even though it's chubby or heavy, can do this thing. And I can do it. And she made me believe, she instilled this belief in me. And that kicked off my marathon journey. Like she was the one said, you should come do this marathon, running up this mountain, but you got 10 hours. And I was like, 10 hours, I can do it. And so, and I remember finishing my first
marathon, race. Right? Huh? A full marathon?
It was an ultra marathon. It was we have a race here. They were training for it. That's why I'm telling you, the crazy runners, they find you. It was 36 miles. It's called Run to the Sun. It was in 2003 was the year. And you meet at this place, this mall in Maui. It's on the island of Maui. And it starts at sea level. And then you run up it's a big tourist attraction in Maui. Haleakala is a dormant volcano and it's at 13,000 foot elevation. So you run from, they consider it, you run from sea to summit. But you got, so it's 36 miles, and about 26 miles is straight uphill. And then you have altitude, which we're not used to in Hawaii. Like we're at sea level and altitude. But they said you had 10 hours. And those last 10 miles broke me so down. But when I finished, above the clouds, it was clouds. And you run, because it's so high, you're running through clouds and it's freezing. And she came in and she ran me in and she grabbed me and gave me a big hug and put a jacket around me. And it was that was my pivotal moment where,
I can imagine that.
Probably like your Joshua tree. I cried out of joy for being done. And I was just so proud.
Yes.
And then that kicked off a series of racing. And I always tell her, like, if it wasn't for her, I would not be here, because she set off something in me that kind of snowballed into this thing. Like, if you asked me 15 years ago, would I ever quit my corporate job to tell people to exercise for money, I would be like, you're crazy. Even my parents, because they're super old school, they think I was crazy to quit. You have a steady paycheck, Leanne. You have 401k, you have vacation pay, you have medical. Why are you gonna quit your job? And I said, this is something I gotta do. I gotta try, because I don't want to ever get into a point in my life and be like, I never try.
You have to love your job. And it's like, I figured that out too. I was like, I always told my boys, you have to find a job that you love so it doesn't seem like you're working. And all three of them are doing that now. So I'm grateful for that. My pivotal moment was just like yours, the half marathon. It's like, and I have to thank my sister for that too, because she was a marathon runner at the time, and all of a sudden that race, she paced me.
Oh, that's so cool.
She became my pacer. And my intention was just to walk it. And I was like at a 13, 14-minute pace. And the time limit was 4 hours. But she started me with like, come on, Nima. So she had me jogging like 30 seconds.
Yes.
And if it wasn't for her, I think I would have quit. I wouldn't have finished, but she was like, come on. So I have to thank her and she knows it, for helping me complete that. And she just became my pacer.
I love that. Yeah, we meet these different people at different times in our life, at these pivotal moments that, like you said, we may not recognize it or think of it as being pivotal or instrumental, but when we look back, it's amazing, right? When people can kind of meet us where we're at and let us discover new things about ourselves.
Exactly. So, it's like what you when you started talking to me, when you told me about like the online coaching, I was already thinking, because my clientele went down during Christmas, at the gym.
Everybody falls off.
I was like, this is a sign. I always look at things for like, this is a sign. I need to start doing something. I went from like a gym that closed now to a gym that's really thriving, and I'm really thriving too. So I need a new goal. I don't call them New Year's resolutions. I'm just like, I need a goal. And so my next goal is to train online and also to probably get another certification, either in nutrition or bodybuilding. Yes.
Yeah, I think, you should definitely maybe look at a nutrition one, just to complement, because you have a lot of lifting experience. I think, and we all know the first key, I always tell clients now, it took me a long time to realize that, but it's nutrition first, right? We can lift all we want and cardio all we want, but if the food is not, we don't got the food nailed down, then we're just kind of sort of like spinning our wheels, right? Like food is more important than we think it is. So then that leads to my next question then. So what's next for Nima? Any big gearing up things coming up? Bodybuilding show maybe, photo shoot, online training? Tell us all the things.
Online training, and then additional certification, probably bodybuilding and or nutrition, probably nutrition. And that's it right now. I think those are good, and just to continue to improve myself, inspire people, and just grow as a person. I saw something online that was from an actor, and I just drew a blank, but he was talking about, I posted it, that you're on this earth to and my boss does that too. He says when he leaves, he wants to leave a legacy. I want to leave knowing that I've helped people. Yeah, I have a lot of followers that have multiple myeloma, and some message me like, what's good for this? What's good for this? You're so inspiring. One thing about myeloma is it's a blood cancer that weakens your bones. It basically kind of eats away at your bones. So it's important to strength train for me because I need to continue to build my muscles and my bones. So
yes, I love
that's
that.
a big thing.
Well,
So
you are doing all the things to inspire people. And that's what I keep saying. Just keep posting more and sharing your story because more people need to hear, right? It's easy when it's all easy. But there's many of us that struggle with a lot of different things. And like you said, we just need that little sliver of hope that even though it's a crap day today, or you're in pain, or you're dealing with symptoms and you just want to blow everything up and be like, forget it, why bother? That
exactly.
little sliver of hope to kind
Uh-huh.
of climb out of that hole, you know. And so that is my goal for us, is just to help keep on spreading the message and putting it out there, because again, educating people, I had no idea, I've never heard of this, what you've had, so thank you for explaining that. And I'm glad that people who have a similar diagnosis are reaching out to you, because it takes a lot of work, effort, and tenacity to get to where you're at, right?
It does.
It's a constant work in progress, and a constant, like you said, managing all these balls in the air.
Yes, and it's like I try not to let the fear of relapsing overcome me. I try just to think about it when I go see my oncologist every 6 weeks and I get my bone treatment. There's always that chance, when you wait for the lab results for your markers that,
Yeah.
there's
You're
always
white knuckling it a little
Yes.
bit. Yeah.
Yes. I try not to. I'm like, okay, Nima, you've been in remission since 2021. So it'll be 3 years, 21 in March 31st, it'll be 3 years. But there's always that chance. Multiple myeloma is very aggressive. So there's always that chance. But I can't, I just try to tell myself, I can't live for what if.
Yep. Day to day.
For the
Today.
now.
Present moment.
Yes. And the now says I'm alive
and thriving.
Can do this. Yes. And if we tell our minds that, even if we don't feel that sometimes, that's what's important, because
rewiring.
Uh-huh.
Right.
Because if we can do it and someone else is stuck in that dark place, because we've been there before. You were there from what, 2011 to 2017?
From probably like 2004 to 2015.
Yeah, I was there from 2010 to like
2017.
Yes. And then I was like, enough of this, I want other people to know that there is, there's hope. We just have to kind of tell ourselves there's hope,
Yes, gang. So, if you're struggling with something, especially like a medical diagnosis, please feel free to reach out to Nima or myself to just kind of have support. Yeah, especially if you're going through something similar that Nima's going through. I think people just have to start the conversation, share more of experiences, and that's how we learn, and that's how, we gather information. And any last words before we wrap it up?
I'm just honored that we've met, Leanne. I'm truly honored. I'm truly honored that when I asked you about online coaching, that you just opened yourself up and you're like, we can do a Zoom meeting. I just want to tell you that when you're on Instagram and you're walking during your walks and your runs and you're talking about all the accomplishments, I can feel your energy because
Oh,
I feel the same way. And I'm just honored. And I feel like right now, I just want to help people. And if something happens to me tomorrow, I want to leave this place knowing that I helped. If I've helped one person, then that makes me feel better.
and I definitely know you've helped so many. And again, thank you for sharing your story. Not everybody likes to share their personal medical struggles. So I really appreciate you taking the time to spend with me. I'm honored for you to come on because I'm just, I have my little following, nothing big or glamorous. But again, my purpose is like yours, right? The mission is to inspire. That I always tell people, look, I really don't feel nothing special. I just am determined and I'm persistent and I'm stubborn and I'm going to keep chipping away. So
I see, yes, I see you. And when you're doing your training and you do this exercise, I'm like looking at it like, whoa, that's next
you're
level.
so sweet. I'm just determined. But you know what? Please, if let us know how we can help you, especially if you're having a hard day. We're going to all be sending you all the positive aloha and healing energy. And again, please let's hook up when I feel like very strong about this, taking your training to the next online level. So I definitely will talk with you about that. And I feel like you do have a niche. Like you said, if people are reaching out to you that share a similar struggle, and the utmost importance is strength training to build up this bone density, maybe you start there, right? Working with these special population groups because you're in the body, the struggle,
Yes, I also have like osteoarthritis. So you see my fingers, they're kind of crooked.
Yeah. Was that from working and stuff?
Osteoarthritis and rheumatoid arthritis. They came a lot. The rheumatoid, I think, came when I was on the immunotherapy. Have they told you that some immunotherapies can lead to autoimmune diseases because it's killing everything?
Yeah, but it's like you trade one thing for the other, like the lesser of two evils, sort of. For a really long time, I too was on a lot of infusions. I just ran out of medicine options, and then I ran out of clinical trials. Then they sent me to the Mayo Clinic in Minnesota to get their opinion. And the Mayo Clinic was kind of like the final holy grail where like, you got to have surgery. Your colon is going to burst. But
Mayo Clinic is it.
For a really long time, I was on this Remicade, which was for people with rheumatoid arthritis, an infusion. And they said, well, Remicade has contraindications for colitis, but the side effect is it could give you rheumatoid arthritis. But I did it because I was willing, like you said, you're just willing to try everything and anything, right? To feel better. So yeah, but man, all the hugs to you, friend.
And you're doing okay now with your health, your colitis? Is it stable?
Yes, I was fortunate where there is no cure, but the remission is when they remove your colon. So it's sort of like the last end all be all resort. And after 11 years of, I would say, suffering, I thought I was thriving, but I was just surviving. And I went to the Mayo Clinic. I also found a therapist that specialized in people with chronic disease. So I wanted to make sure I was making a clear-headed decision in terms of surgery, because I was done. Like you said, I was done. When you told your doctor you were done with all the medicine and treatments, I was done. And I was like not wanting to leave my house. Because people with colitis can never, the thing is, you go to the bathroom like 50 plus times a day, no matter what you do, you have no control. And so I was just like not wanting to leave my house. But so I worked with a therapist and I really navigated the decision so that when I went in and I said, okay, I'm ready, I knew it wasn't from desperation or loss of hope. It was clear. And for me, it was like, look, I spent 11 years suffering. I want to live, not just survive. And so I have been fortunate to be in remission since removing my colon in that was like December 7th, 2015.
You remember those dates.
Oh, you remember the dates,
Mhm.
sister. Yeah, you remember the dates. And so some people ask me, oh, you know, it must not bother you because you share it so much and all this stuff. And I'm honest, I'm like, no, it's like, but what you know, I have my moments where I'm like, man, this sucks. But what other choice do I have? Because this is a part of me now. So I can either sit on the side and cry, or I can make the best of it. And I was determined. I told my therapist when I had surgery, I was like, you know, all you guys tell me, all my doctors say, you cannot do this. They told me when I left the hospital, don't lift 10 pounds because you have this ostomy and we cut through your abdominal and you're going to risk a hernia. And and I was like, I am not the only person with an ostomy. I'm sure there's plenty of moms out there with ostomies that need to pick up their kid. And you're telling me they're not picking up their kid because you're saying they can't lift weights. So like how we talked about earlier, right? You started with the doctors kind of tell you what they know from a textbook, but you have to be in your body and you know when to push and you know when to hold back, and you got to kind of push to test the water. So I was here to say, like, I'm trying to break barriers for what they tell people with ostomies that say, like, look, yes, they tell you don't do this, but if you know your body, you can do it this way and it's fine. So don't be run by fear.
So you're doing the same thing for colitis
yes.
that I'm doing for multiple myeloma.
Yeah.
And you kind of do what I do. You push a little bit and sometimes you have to pull back because you know, yeah, I try to push it to the limit with the weights, but sometimes my bones tell me, no, Nima, you can't do that. So then I have to pull back with the weights and then just increase in reps for a few weeks. But that's how we keep on growing. And as far as like, yeah, you said sometimes you know, it's sad, and we have moments. I have my moments still where I'm like, I have a bad evening and I just want to cry. But I tell myself, and I don't know if you experience that, and I'm just, you know, why did this happen to me? But then I'm like, tomorrow's going to be a better day, and we just have to continue to move forward. And that's what we have to think, you know.
Yes. And it always comes back to what we think, what we tell ourselves, our head noise. And again, also to just knowing that it's okay to ask for help and reach out for support.
And advocate for yourself. If you're dealing with health issues, make sure you advocate for yourself, because I have 2 compression fractures, T6 and T8. One was in 2008 and one was in 2010. So I was diagnosed in 2010. The first fracture I was riding a roller coaster at Knott's Berry Farm. I was only 41, but my bones were weak.
Right.
I asked my doctor to research it because I read the MRI, and it said that there was a possibility of bone metastasis, you know, and they ruled it out as arthritis. So then 2 years later in 2010, I had another bone fracture, and I insisted on an MRI again, and they found that it had a lot of lytic lesions. Lytic lesions are where you see holes in the bones, and that's where basically the cancer has eaten up the bone. And so that was hard, but I'm here now, you know. But had I not advocated, he was telling me the second time that it was a muscle spasm. I'm like, this is not a muscle spasm. I can barely walk. There is something wrong. But I remember his words. He's like, I'll order you an MRI, but I really think it's a muscle spasm.
That's so important, a clear message, like you said. I'm glad you kind of brought it back up. Advocate for yourself. I think initially sometimes, like I had said, right, we don't want to buck the doctors because they have all this schooling and they're PhD doctor. And then also we don't, I initially, I'm honest, I initially didn't want to do the legwork and the research myself. I was like too busy trying to run, bike, and swim these races I was into. And I was like, give me whatever, doc. You know, I was like, you went to school. I didn't go to school. I was being lazy about it. But what I realize now is, hey, they're just like me, human. Maybe they have some letters after their name and they got a whole bunch of schooling and they know the anatomy in and out. But really, they don't know that much more. So I have to like ask the questions. If I don't feel good about something, like you said, you went and researched the fracture and you asked about it, and they told you twice. You know, twice he bucked you down. He nailed it down. But he said, okay, but you know, to coddle you or to, you know, make you go on your merry way, I'll do the MRI. So what did he end up apologizing when he found the results?
Yeah.
He did.
He was so upset. I was like, but 2 years ago, I asked you about this. I was in shock. Well, you know, when you first get that cancer diagnosis.
Oh yeah, you wanted to kick him? Did you want to hit him?
Yes, I wanted to hit him.
Yeah,
my marathoner sister is an attorney. I'm like, you've got to find me a medical practice attorney. And she did. She found me one. But at the time, the attorney, she had a conference call with us and she said, first of all, let me tell you, multiple myeloma is a terrible disease. And I'm like, I want to hear that. But she said that it would have been, she didn't see a case because it's hard, because it's a blood cancer to tell when it first started.
Right. To tie it to the timing where he had sort of like a missed diagnosis.
Yes, but I learned my lesson. Now I have, instead of a primary doctor that's Western med, I have an integrative medicine doctor. I look for integrative or functional med doctors.
Open-minded.
Yes, I want to share that with everyone because the most important thing for me, the most important thing when you have a chronic illness and incurable disease, anything, is to advocate for yourself, ask questions, and find a doctor that you're comfortable with. And I find that integrative or functional med doctors are more open-minded and they're willing to try supplements. Yes. Mind you, I'm on a little bit of both, but I'm trying, and you're probably
Like we said, right? It's I dislike when people say one way. There's only one way. No, we're all unique creatures. There's multitudes of ways. I love functional and integrative because yes, they are more open-minded. They understand it's going to be a little bit of Eastern and a little bit of Western, you know, sometimes. And that's what you need, is somebody who's willing to open their viewpoint. But it was such an amazing talk. We have to do it again.
Yes. And another thing, if you can take something that's natural like turmeric to help with your inflammation, why take a prescription? So mind you, I am on some prescriptions. I do both.
I love that. All right, we're gonna wrap it up here because I have a missed call at 5.
I had a great time. Thank you.
I'm can't wait. I will send you the link and tag you on all the things. Have a great rest of your week, and I'll see you on the Instagram.
All right.
Bye. Take care. Bye-bye. Lots of love. Mwah, mwah.
Love. Bye-bye.
Bye.